Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this Monday morning. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. And when we look back to last week, an interesting week. The week was absolutely volatile beyond words. The movements were crazy until Friday. And then Friday hit, volatility started to pull back a little bit. The movement definitely pulled back. The absolute high to low, when you take a look over at the Dow, that got a lot tighter. Finished the day down about 8 points. Matter of fact, NASDAQ did not perform very well. It was down about 3/4 or 75 points to the downside. So that was under some pressure. What wasn't under pressure was crude oil. And that really was the storyline of the day that really stole things. It crossed 80 for the first time in quite a long period of time. A lot of people were giving up on oil, and it's made this unbelievable run. And this run, as we've talked about time and time again, it started November of last year, right at the election. Just go back and look at it. $38 oil, and then it's been screaming to the upside ever since, with very few pauses. We've had some step backs here and there, but overall, it has just been a pathway to the upside. So closed right around 79.60, so below that 80 mark. But and we'll get into this in a second, we've definitely eclipsed that once again to the upside. The 10-year hanging around that 1.6, and we had been planted at 1.5 for a little while, made a little bit of a move. Here we are at 1.6. As a matter of fact, 1.6, 1.61, it just seems to be just a magnet to that area. So when I look at the volatility index, you're looking at somewhere, call it 18 to 20. We finished underneath 19. We were about 18.75 on Friday going into the weekend. So you always price in a little bit of something else, and we'll see how well that's priced in each and every week. That's something that's pretty interesting. Well, something else that was interesting, again, volume, the derivatives world, absolutely explosive, 38.2 million contracts trading on Friday. So the volumes just continue to be strong. Volatility did come back down, and a little bit more of a tighter movement within those markets, as we were talking about. Bitcoin up there at 54,000, 56,000. It is in a really interesting range right now. Is it going to stay right there, or is there a lot more coming? I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people with different opinions out there. I know Tom Lee's got opinions about a lot of different things, and specifically Bitcoin outside of just the macro markets themselves. So he's a great follow if you aren't following him already on Twitter. He does an unbelievable job of a lot of the updates and everything else. Tom Lee's just done an outstanding job. He's been a great partner for us at Market Rebellion. We appreciate all of what he does. Did a great job at our conference recently. Beta Energy, absolutely on fire. Yeah, we talk about the energy stocks. We talk about CVS and XOM and XLE and all the rest of these things, but it's those beta names of the XOP that just continue to be just absolutely on fire. Apache, that was up like 7%. Hess was up nearly 7%. Look at EOG, ConocoPhillips, Marathon Oil. You get the idea. Diamondback, all of those names up anywhere between 3.5% and 5.5% this past Friday. Monstrous day. Chinese names, once again, on fire. They were moving to the upside with Baidu and JD and PDD and all those names. So materials, financials, those are sort of the areas that we've been watching very closely. Sometimes they've been moving together in concert, other times moving against one another. But we've been watching this play out now for a while as technology's made its ups and downs and moving around a little bit, and obviously pulling on the markets a little bit last week. But this week, early on, the technology space was pulling on the markets just a little bit. As a matter of fact, tech started off a little bit weaker today. NASDAQ was down about 75 in the pre-market. And then look over at the Dow, not doing a whole lot. The Dow actually just mostly stayed in positive territory, but back and forth within about a 50-point range for the first, maybe call it 25, 30 minutes. Then it started to explode to the upside. Then we started to see this move from the Dow go to up 120, up 160. Last I looked, we were up about 180, maybe even as much as 190 points to the upside. And a complete flip around coming from the NASDAQ, as the NASDAQ was, like I say, down 75 points in the pre-market. It never really looked quite that bad as we got into the trading session, but it was down a little bit. It was up a little bit, call it 20, 30 points, and then started to move to the upside in a very powerful way, up about 80 points the last I looked for the NASDAQ. What really caused this? When you look at the technology right out of the gate and the semiconductors, both were under a little bit of pressure. Tech was down about 0.6%. You take a look over at the SMH, just not really performing very well. And then it started to flip. And with that flip, we saw an incredible move coming out of the NASDAQ. As a matter of fact, last I looked, technology was up about 0.6%. completely the opposite of where we started off the day. Semiconductors on a nice little move to the upside, up about 0.75%. So when I look at energy, energy was the starter right out of the gate. It was up over 1%. Gave back a little something. Then all of a sudden, materials started to make a nice move. They were already up 0.75%. That started to move up and was, last I looked, up about 1.25%. Financials up nearly 1%. You get the idea. We are starting to see a little bit of a rise and a little bit of a lift. And obviously that turn that I was talking about for technology, especially when you're looking at the NASDAQ, really something that became a very, very rapid forming factor in what we are seeing in front of us so far today. We look at volatility, back down in towards it. We were in the 19s, now back into the 18s. We're somewhere in that sort of world. I last looked at Bitcoin. It was about 56,500, 10-year right around 161. Looks like the financials like that. So what are some of the standouts today? I mentioned materials. Take a look at Freeport-McMoRan. Early on, it was up about 3.5%. It's been up as much as 6%. We have been seeing activity in copper and Freeport-Mac specifically consistently again, and it's just been coming back more and more, and we just continue to monitor that as far as the material space. Again, the beta energy names absolutely on fire. They're rocking into the upside. Names like Apache, Schlumberger, Halliburton, those names all having a nice start to the day. A little bit of pressure early on for Southwest. A lot of different issues. There were headline issues, obviously, over the weekend about whether there's weather or there's a little bit of a conflict maybe going about vaccines, something going on, and that putting a little bit of pressure on Southwest. The Chinese names with a really nice day. Baidu, JD, PDD, all those names starting off pretty nice. NetEase, Trip.com, all of them having a pretty nice start to the day. So where are we right now? It's time for a couple of unusual option activities. Then out of here, I will be on the halftime report tomorrow after I do the take. But for today, the afternoon's a little bit more clear. Got cash flow portfolio coming up. Joining Corey Heppola here at WCCO Radio in just about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So I look forward to that as well. Before that, Canaan. That's the first one for unusual option activity, CAN. Now, we've seen this name before. It's interesting. It's a Bitcoin miner. It's in that world, and it's in Asian markets. $6.65 is where the stock was trading. We had a buyer of November 10 calls. That's going to take a move, but 4,600 November 10 calls trading for about 35 cents if you look right in the middle of where those were trading. So that one stood out definitely early on, a very inexpensive shot to the upside, but looking for a pretty substantial move in a very short period of time. BABA, on the other hand, this one is very interesting. Stock was higher than it is now. It's pulled back a little bit from those initial highs. It was up over 167, I think 167.50. We had a buyer of 5,000 of the October 29th expiring, so the last weekend in October, the 190 calls. Now they're rolling up from the October 175 calls, selling those and buying these. They've already been right. Matter of fact, if you take a look real quick and you look at the month of October for BABA, it's had a really nice run, 144 up to 167, which is where we were today. Pulled back a little bit off of that run early this morning, but pulled back just a little bit. I think last I looked, it was trading right in the 166 and maybe the upper 166 range. But we're seeing, again, 5,000 October 29th expiring, 190 calls. Those are going for about $1.40 or so. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to the afternoon and seeing you guys later on. As a matter of fact, we will have a special this week, as a matter of fact, with AJ Monty. We're going to have a lot of fun kicking things around. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Have a great day of trading.